Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dramaturgy podcast. In this episode, I am going back in time. I guess, feeling a little sentimental, so I want to go back in time, to talk about one of my very first Tyler cons, right? One of the first and the only few ones that stuck with me in the world of, we'll get to it later, in the world of like what I thought was terrible writing, with Tyler Cons, and that is the drama Bonded Hearts. It has a native like title, and I will try and pronounce it as best as I can, but I am about to butcher this. And so its native title is Pieng Ti Pukpun, right? And it's a title account that aired back in 2010. And so this was a long time ago. I just came across it a few days ago and I was like, this is actually a good drama to talk about because it actually really impressed me when I first watched it. And for those who don't know, like back when like way back, right? When I first started watching dramas, right? Back when I was kind of like still like a black hole of like just watching everything I could find because I was just like so shocked that there was this whole world of dramas that I did not know, as someone that was just like a connoisseur of, drama watching and TV watching as a kid. And so I was consuming so much, right? And, after I got into Vicky and, started watching dramas with Flower Boy Next Door, right? Which had Park Shin then when she still had like a baby face and everything. After that I got into like different dramas from other countries, right? Not just K dramas, right? And at some point I stumbled onto Lacons, and I feel like I've told the story once or twice before on this like my podcast. But I stumbled onto Thai Lacons, and if you know anything about me, I don't mind toxic dramas. Like I don't mind a drama being toxic. I don't mind my male lead being toxic. But I have to say that Tyler Combs brought in a different level of toxicity that I was not able to handle. Like it brought in a new toxicity that was not rational, in the sense that obviously like there's no amount of like rationality to red flags, right? But still, to an extent, you can write a good story, right, and write a character be a red flag, but you still know that like, okay, it's a good story. Tyler comes like when I started, and I was watching these old Tyler comes, right? Like the ones that were like made in 1990 something. It was a really deep dive into this world, and I was going way back in time, right? These old dramas, right? The male leads in these dramas were one of the worst kinds of characters that I'd ever seen. Like in terms of like, again, I love toxic male leads, as they come, but sometimes it gets so toxic that like it makes no sense, right? And that was the case with a lot of Tyler Cons, right? Like the toxicity was just out of this world, and on top of that, it wasn't good writing, and so those two things combined, and I mean, you add in like cartoonish secondary female lead, it's just a recipe for disaster. And so I really like was just blown away. I was like culture shock almost. Like, how is this bad, right? And if you don't know anything about like Tyler, because a lot of them are like channel based, right? So a channel will basically also be like artist management, and so they use their own artists for all their dramas, right? And so they kind of recycle couples a lot, right? And so I was just shocked by the whole concept of like this Thailand and their dramas, right? And it was in the midst of this I found this drama Bonded Art, right? When I watched it for the first time, I remember being so in love with it because it was just so different from a lot of other Tyler Cons that I'd ever watched, right? For one, the male lead was not a toxic character. He was a devoted, loyal character, right? Usually male leads, right, in these dramas, they are usually very possessive. They are usually like kind of not good at critical thinking when it comes to the female lead and how they treat the female lead, right? They will believe everybody but the female lead. The male lead in this drama does not do that. He believes like the female lead very much. Like anything that she says, basically he worships the ground she walks on, right? And I love that about this drama. So yeah, I'll get into like why I like this drama more, but that's just to like give you an introduction of kind of like my thought process and why this drama kind of is special to me because it represented something different. And that's not to say that there aren't some like toxic style accounts I love some. There's some that I really like. Like there's one Suit Saipan is what it's called, which is about like this guy that gets involved with this girl that he doesn't know is a twin, right? So when that girl who is like this party animal breaks up with him, and he ends up being adopted because he's poor, right? And that's why she breaks up with him, because again it's about money. She's a gold digger kind of like character, right? When she breaks up with him, in amidst of that, he finds out that he's like the son of somebody that was actually like wealthy, and he gets like brought back into the family, and he meets this other girl that looks exactly like that girl he broke up with, and he thinks that is the girl that he dated, and so he's really mean to her and everything. That one, even though it's just as toxic and the middle lead is very problematic, I still really, really like that drama. So there are some dramas, some Tyler accounts I do still like, even though they are like terrible toxicity, right? So just to put that out there, that I am still not above watching, dramas like this. But I will say that Bonded Arts is special because this is actually like a good drama, and a good introduction if you wanted to like watch Tyler Connor and you just wanted to like soft launch to someone, because any other drama they are calling the police. So yeah, Bonded Arts, basically this drama is about Suer and Mook. Suer is this like common poor Thai boy, right? He doesn't have much. He doesn't really have a house. Like he lives in kind of like this shed looking place with like his mom and his, I think, uncle, right? So he's kind of downtrodden, doesn't have much, right? Whereas Mook is the daughter of someone wealthy, right? She was raised kind of all coddled. Not that she her character itself was coddled, but like she's just a really, really naive character, and she's kind of gone through life just, bright-eyed, that kind of personality, right? Very naive personality, but very pure, right? And so they are very different people. I will say that Mook lives with people that are like, I think, our family members, like maybe half sister, and like those kinds of people are not very nice to her, right? And because again she's just kind of like a pushover character, she just kind of like lets it happen. Also because she's just young, right? So a lot of how she deals with this thing is very like, she just cries a lot about it, right? So it's not that she's living a perfect life, but her life is better, and but there is still that aspect of like, this is kind of a terrible family that she was born in, right? Now, Suer and Mook meet. Suer, when he first meets her, I would say, was kind of like jaded towards her because he could recognize that she was kind of like a princess, right? And that kind of rubbed him off the wrong way. He thought she was gonna be a lot like the rest of her family members, because he does know like part of these people, because I think they just all live in this area kind of thing. And so he thought she would be kind of like them, but he immediately like notices that like Mook is very different. She's very nice, very kind, very pure. She treats his kind of disabled uncle with respect that everybody else seems to like just have like this disdain for, right? And so he comes to like her because of that, right? And Mook as well, like she just likes having somebody that is almost like a kindred spirit for her, somebody that she finds that they get along, they both like fishes, somebody that she can just talk to about issues, right? And so she comes to rely on him very, very quickly, right? She comes to like trust him very, very quickly, and they have this bond immediately, right? Like it's very quickly how they just immediately like start to trust each other. But I like how the story kind of builds that though. Like it's not like instant, but at the same time, like you see the moments where they show that like this is getting to the person, like this is getting to Suer, or this is getting to Mook, and you can see them getting closer and closer and closer, right? At some point Mook has to go abroad to study. That's also when Suer's like dad comes, and we find out his dad had money and everything, and their life basically changes in that like Mook becomes like this really popular violinist, whereas like Suer kind of like gets high up there in society, right? So he's no longer the kind of person he used to be, that was like poor and everything. He now has a hotel and stuff like that, and so he has all these things, right? And what I think I really like about this drama, that this drama does well, that I'll say even the best of the best dramas do not do this, is that when they have this period where they are apart, they do not lose contact like completely, right? Yeah, there are moments obviously like in the few years that they might not talk, but like they have still like moments where like that okay, these two people still care for one another. It's not like they feel like there's like this misunderstanding between them because of the separation. They still like just know that the other person has their best interest at heart almost, right? So even though yeah, like Mook's family keeps all the letters that he sends to her, right? It doesn't affect how Suer sees her and trusts that like she's still the person that he knows, right? And I would say that I think that also what makes this drama very, very good is that there's just that level of respect they have towards one another, right? Because it's not necessarily that they had like a love or romantic relationship from the get go, really, right? It's really actually when they grow up and they see each other again, and Suer like proposes to her that they, start to really like show that, right? But when they're a lot younger, it's not necessarily that, like it's just a sense of companionship that they have with one another, right? And I like how this drama also does not kind of label it immediately, like especially given the world they live in. It doesn't make sense if they were like, oh, will you be my boyfriend, will you be my girlfriend? And this is again something I struggle with, especially with like BL dramas these days, in that like no matter how like complex the world they are trying to paint in the BL is. For example, Jack and Joker, I mentioned this in my review of it. They have that moment where the character is like, will you be my boyfriend? And it just makes me cringe because like it makes no sense. If someone is on the mafia, I feel like that's not like, you do understand what I'm saying? Like that's really not how they would approach that. Things would just like flow into that and they just know that's what they have, as opposed to like saying like, do you want to go study with me? Like, do you understand? So it was that kind of thing that this drama does not have, right? Until they decide to get married. When Suer proposes, you never really like get the vibe. Like they hold hands even before that, but again, it's never really about like making like a status thing, right? Like mentioning that okay, this is what we are, kind of like relationship status, right? And so I like that about this as well. It just flows easily and it's just really about the bond that they have, right? And so when Mook finally comes back to Thailand, and at this point Suer has become really wealthy, really rich. They kind of reunite and they kind of just start off where they left off, right? They never really like have a moment of awkwardness, really, right? They just immediately have an affinity again for one another, and it's so beautiful to see. And you just immediately see how much Mook still trusts him, and how much Suer is still like is always looking out for her and looking to her, right? And that's, I think, it's just something so beautiful about it, and it's hard to explain if you don't watch this drama, how they were able to just show you those like sweetness, those moments of just like connection that these two have, right? And so when they meet again as kind of more adults, at this point Sora has a lot of admirers. And it's one of those things is like, it's those that were with me from the beginning that will benefit. He's that kind of person, and that's another thing I have to say. Sora's character is so well written, but yeah, he only cares about the people that has been with him from the beginning. His uncle and Mook, really, those are the two main people that he cares about, right? Everybody else is just secondary, even his mom to an extent. And his mom is the only part of him that like rubs me the wrong way, but I have to just like at least be like, okay, at least this is Tyler Con, and there'll always be that character in like the male lead's life, because that's always a thing, right? There's just one person that it's in the family that you're wondering like, how is this person related to this person, because they have such different contrasting characters, right? And so Suer's mom in this is very like problematic, right? And you can kind of understand why Suer is the way he is and how like he has come to become responsible and intentional, because his mom is none of that, right? Yeah, and so when they meet again, Suri obviously is in love with her, and Mook obviously cares about him and loves him just as much, and so they decide to get married. And I like how they show them being married. I like how they show them living together and that process. I like how the issues in this drama is never really about these two couple, right? It's never about this couple. Like, these two people trust each other, they love each other, and there's never an issue amongst them in terms of like misunderstanding. They talk through everything. It's really people around them that like give them problems, right? And that's why I say I really like Suer's character, because a lot of times in Tyler cons, especially the older ones, these days maybe changing a bit, but like the older ones, the female lead has to kind of fight everybody for the male lead, right? And it's in such a way that like the male lead kind of never knows, or if he knows, he never believes the female lead, or like it's just like the male lead will say he loves the female lead, or will say he wants the female lead. It will be possessive over her, but she's having to fight everybody, right, in his life, right? People are bullying her left, right, and center, including his own family, right? And I have to say, Suer is not that kind of person. He does not play with Mook. Like, no one can do anything to his girl, right? And so like he shuts things down really quickly, right? And so I really, really like that about his character, right? He, even though he called Mook a princess like when they were younger, I would say that he's the one that treats her the most like a princess, right? And she's just like everything to him, right? And honestly, she deserves it, because Mook's character is like actually like just a genuinely good person in terms of like, and this is also why this drama is really good in terms of writing, in that entire accounts, or just dramas in general, when the male lead likes the female lead, oftentimes I never know why. This happens more in Chinese dramas for me, where like the male lead would just like the female lead for no reason. Like they just see them once or twice and they'll be kind of interested. It's fine because a lot of like the Chinese dramas are like college dramas, and I can imagine people just like falling in love with what they see, and they go from there. But generally it rubs me off the wrong way, where I don't know why the male lead is necessarily interested in a female lead, other than like maybe she's pretty. And a lot of times that is obviously never the point they want you to like think about. They just want you to think that female lead is like mediocre and the male lead is like extra handsome or extra something, right? And it never makes sense to me. But like that's one thing I'll say this drama does well, in that you know why Suer loves Mook. Mook is one of the best people, one of the best written female leads, in that yeah, she's naive, yes, she's kind of a princess, but she's just a genuinely good person, genuinely kind person that does not have any malicious bone in her body, right? And that is something to love. That is something to want to protect. And Suer, sees that in Mook, and loves her for that, loves her for who she is, who she grows to be. One of my favorite things about this drama is watching how Mook, starts from being one of the worst violin players, and you see like Suer and his uncle just like blocking their ears, trying to not blocking their ears, but like listening with like it's our face, because she's playing terribly, right? And then you see how she progresses to become like the amazing violinist she is, because she has people that push her for this and give her support, right? And so that's one thing I really like. So I like how this drama, I won't say they necessarily have character development, because the characters are kind of they have a big good baseline from the beginning, but they still show you development within that, right? Suer, coming from something that is very doubtful of Mook and almost jaded towards the world, becoming that person that, even though he's still that, recognizing Mook and Mook's goodness, and loving that and being a loving person, that's some sort of character development. Mook, going from that naive girl to this like amazing violinist that is sure of herself and sure of like what she wants and everything, that's also like some character development. So I honestly, talking about it now, I just realized how quite amazing this drama is, right? And honestly, the actor and actress makes it even like better, because I love both of them so much, and I think they were just the perfect fit for this. So I really, really like it. I think that this is like, when you talk about childhood romance, childhood sweethearts kind of drama, this is one that's done really well, right? It's one that, these are two people that found each other and they stuck to one another to the very end, right? And I just love it so much. Like, I I love it. I have no issues with this drama whatsoever. It's perfect, and I have it downloaded onto a hard drive because I can never find it online. And so the minute I did, I downloaded it and I stored it because yeah, I go back to this every few years just to like have that experience over again because yeah, this drama is just fantastic overall. But yeah, that's really all I have in this episode. It's always like talking about like older dramas because like they mean so much to me and they just give me this nostalgic feeling and I just love it so much. But yeah, that's all for this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys have a lovely, lovely rest of your week and bye.